Well, let's take this further with Angelo Fick, who is the Director of Research at the Auwal Socio-economic Research Institute. Angelo, is this merely a fissure in the muscle holding together the alliance partners that just need some therapy to repair it, or is the ANC and its alliance partners on the precipice of an irreparable tear?
I'm not certain that it is either of those two things. I think that this has been a break that has been coming for a long time. We've just heard Solima Paila say that they have not met as an alliance at a Congress in 10 years. Now, we are 3 decades into post-apartheid South Africa. That means for a third of that period, these alliance partners have not met. The SACP has on 2 occasions in the last 10 years indicated they would stand on their own. So the question is, when they said this again in December 2024, did they mean it that time? Then, of course, in May of this year, Solima Paila himself denounced Mr. Ramaphosa and denounced the ANC precisely for going into a partnership at the end of last year's elections with fairly neoliberal partners, according to their view, in the form of the Democratic Alliance and other members of the so-called GNU coalition. COSATU has its own battles to it that it has not been dealing with appropriately and effectively for itself by losing trade union membership in post-apartheid South Africa. We're at the lowest point of workers in trade unions. And we're also at one of the highest points of unemployment. So the question is not so much, is this just a fissure or is this just something that can be dealt with in therapy? These organizations' leaders may come to some kind of agreement and proceed in what they pursue or sell to us as unity. But the question is, are the members and the dwindling members of trade unions, firstly, members of the SACP, are they growing? And members of the disaffected members of the ANC that left them with a 40% share of the vote in the general elections of last year, is there some foundation on which to build this unity, or is this what Njabulo Ndebele in the 1980s warned us against, which is the sloganeering of politics? Is this we're using words, but they don't actually have a substance behind them on the ground?
Yeah. Beyond the platitudes, I think one can safely say that President Ramaphosa serving as president not just of the country, but seemingly also of the ANC by some weird coincidence, at the behest and the mercy of the anxiety and ambition of the Democratic Alliance, right? That's what's seemingly holding the coalition packed together. But on the other hand, he's also supposed to appease not just his party, but his alliance partners as well. Which of those relationships is more vulnerable to his position as president?
So I suspect that what is at issue is not just his individual presidency. This is his 2nd term. He's going to see it out fairly shortly, 2 years before the general elections of 2029. But I think more importantly, he can probably survive as the president of the Republic of South Africa with 40% plus a group of minority parties to get him to 50 plus in parliament without the Democratic Alliance. What the African National Congress cannot survive beyond the next set of elections, whether they're local or general elections in 2029, is the support of the masses of South Africa's unemployed and precariously placed workers. The majority of people in this country are poor. They used to be represented by mass-based organizations through trade unions and through the ANC. That has radically shifted visibly for the ANC in the 2024 election. I suspect that there is an attempt by Mr. Ramaphosa to appease his alliance partners and the dwindling numbers that they do represent, and to neutralize the threat that they could split the peasant and working class vote if the SACP stands on its own in the municipal elections, and thereby gut the ANC's representation in local government. And this might also be why he's suggesting to members of his own party that they should look to how the DA governs, because where they govern well. How that is going to go down in the NEC is a different story because, there are people inside the ANC who are unhappy with the ANC's partnership with the DA. There are people in the SACP and COSATU who certainly see this as a selling out. So where this alliance is going and whether Mr. Ramaphosa survives through to the end of his term of office as either President of the Republic of South Africa or President of the ANC is, I think, largely going to be determined by those election outcomes in 2026, early 2027, and by how much longer he's able to do this double-barrel speak of saying we will have to appease those other South African and international interests, capital mostly, that want this coalition government, and the indigenous voter base that may not want this.
Let's look a little bit beyond 2029. What's left of the ANC beyond that? And also, I think concomitantly, what's left of the alliance partnership beyond that?
So I have no crystal ball, so I can't predict what the future is going to hold, but I can tell you what the challenges are going to be. There is a demographic problem for political parties in this country in relation to the population. Our political parties and political organizations tend to be dominated by people who are 50 and older. The majority of young South Africans, or the majority of South Africans, are actually younger than 27. So you're going to sit with a situation we've had elsewhere on the continent where formal politics does not involve the majority of young people, and we're beginning to see that with low numbers of registration to be voters by young people, and then lower numbers of participation in elections by younger people. That will have to shift if any of these parties have any desire to survive beyond 2030, 2036. For the African National Congress, the challenge additionally is, can they turn around the most unequal society on the planet with the promises that they've been giving us since 1994 and the delivery failures that they've had? We need to separate the delivery failures from the corruption and maladministration. The delivery failures have been, among other things, promising one set of things but not delivering on them. And those include backlog on housing, backlog on the transformation of the social dynamics of the country at just neighborhood levels. We continue to mostly live where we would have lived under apartheid South Africa. The poor are still in informal settlements and on the peripheries of our towns and cities. The wealthy still concentrate in the best parts of the country, best coastlines, wealthier neighborhoods. If they can't undo that, they're going to sit with an even greater set of distrust from the majority of South Africans. As for the Tripartite Alliance partners, the SACP, they're now entering, we're a quarter of the way through this century, a very specific phenomenon in the international space where there's the rise of fascism. And of course, international forces against anything that represents what even has the whiff of socialism or social justice. The COSATU people have a different problem, which is in a country with growing unemployment and a precarity of the workforce globally, trade unionism is not very strong globally. And so they have not just a local battle to fight, but they're part of a global issue around formal workers and their rights.
Yeah. Well, that's where we're going to have to leave it, Angelo. Always fantastic speaking to you. Thank you so much for your insights. And I'll leave you to finish off Death of a Son as we conclude this interview. Really do appreciate it.